Yeah, thank you. And again, good morning to everyone. And I'm really privileged to have the industry leaders who is now going to guide us that how typically they are responding to or they are enabling, Mr. Ross, sir, how they are enabling the banks and financial to get compliance, not only limited to data privacy, but we'll try to touch upon the different aspects of the compliance requirement, from the regulatory compliance to the cybersecurity to the fraud management to the data privacy. So thank you all for joining me on the stage. So maybe we'll get started with Vidya ma'am. You are managing the technology at NBFCs. So typically, maybe you just try to give a dimension that how the compliance complexity has increased over a period of time for the financial institution before we get it deeper into that.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'm Vidya, Sambasivam, CIO from Dvara, KGFS. I think we've been hearing Shashank talk about the compliance, in the previous sessions as well, right? I think increased scrutiny by the regulator is one of the biggest things. Is one of the biggest things that we are seeing now. In fact, the regulations for the NBFCs are almost close to the banks, right? Fraud management, has been, the way it has to be managed has been strengthened. Other like KYC, AML compliance has been increased. The way we are supposed to proactively manage the reporting and all of that has been, I would say the expectations from the NBFC has significantly increased. In fact, even for the banks that way, I think a revised regulation has come for fraud management, so that's making it that much more difficult. The overall, expectations from the regulator, the number of authorities, the number of regulations that have come, there's the sheer volume of trying to understand what is there and what needs to be done is making it quite challenging. Okay, I think that I would say is the biggest one for us. The next one, of course, we all are working with multiple digital platforms. All these platforms bring in focus on data security. We will also have to ensure, the cyber threats are managed appropriately. Cybersecurity will have to be in place. There's focus on customer protection now. Shashank spoke about the DPDP Act. So that Act is coming out and we will have to comply and ensure that is taken care. So that's another area where, things are changing. The increased risk landscape as well, right? Fraud detection has to be strengthened. There's so many frauds, the cyber threats out there. And I think those have to be managed. And so all of these are the complexities that we are seeing, okay? And given all of this, the limited resources with which we are supposed to operate, I think that's the real journey. And balancing that with the growth and compliance, I think is the real difficulty, I would say, whatever I think we are
seeing. Right? And also they have to be careful about the cost part of it, right? So, Jignesh, I'll come to you. I know your job is getting more tougher because one hand you have to completely be responsible to drive the digital transformation, but at the same time you need to ensure the compliance. So, primarily maybe initial thoughts that if you want to share that, how do you balance between compliance while at the same time you ensure the digital transformation goes on?
Yeah, good morning and thanks Shashank for having me here. My name is Jignesh. I head the digital department for Muthoot Finance, or the Red Muthoot as they say, right? Compliance is twofold for us. One is the internal compliance which we have to do because we are the regulated entity, right? So when we do internal compliance, a lot of control is with us, right? We control our own infra. Of course, cloud has its own nuances, etc. But we control our own infra, and we have much more control in terms of what we do, how we do, the compliance aspects of it. But for digital transformation, Shashank, lot of things are being done by partners, right? So, for example, SignZ, right? And we use so many partners, Perfios. I mean, multiple partners are being used by all of us. But the compliance rests on us, right? So while we do the digital transformation, on our side, we have built all the controls. We have to rely a lot on the partners and their compliance practices. That is what something which is sometimes of a worry to us. That while we do our own compliance, we have to ensure that the partners are also fully compliant, because at the end of the day, it's our brand which is at stake, right? Customer is talking, looking, seeing Muthoot Finance as a brand, and if there is some regulatory compliance or any other issue, it's our brand which is at stake. So that's a tough balance which we have to do, that while it's our platform, our journey, our customer, we have to rely on internal compliance as well as the external compliance done by all the partners. Therefore, the partner due diligence compliance, their practices becomes very, very, very critical, because at the end of the day, regulator will be auditing us, asking us, and wanting to ensure that we are fully compliant and our partners are fully compliant. That's the main key difference which I see. Internal is easier to that extent, but having ensured that all our partners are fully compliant, that's a bit of a tricky one.
No, absolutely. I think this is very critical. And the partner landscape is also continuously changing, right? You may be on the banking as a service platforms coming as an intermediary, and then you have the consumer on the other side. So thanks, Jignesh, and taking your point. Now, Mr. Rao, I'll come to you. So you have heard probably they are the users of you, right? And being a technologist, how do you see the convergence of the processes and technologies, and coupled with people, right, that is being changed to drive the compliance?
Good morning, Mr. Shashank, and good morning, fellow panelists and the participants. Thanks for the Bharat FinTech, the digital fifth. So, a very good morning. So, I think the core focus of the discussion is on RegTech and how, what are the challenges that the organizations are facing in implementing this. If you recall some of those who are in the BFSI industry for a long time, regulations are of two types. One that is more of, which is the customer facing, and the second is, let's say, the other more internal, what my colleague was mentioning. So the customer facing side, I would say the last 2 decades, the major things were anti-money laundering, UCIC, KYC. So, when these were not there, the whole business was done very differently, and over a period of time, when the regulator insisted and brought these things, so a lot of things have to be modified, the processes, etc. There was a challenge. It took some time, but I think, let's say, at least on these, now we are fairly advanced. The latest in this, that is again, as I said, consumer-facing side, is the DPDP Act, now which is just started. So imagine it is something like when KYC was introduced, perhaps 15 years ago, what the industry would have seen, that flux will be happening. You will all going to see who will be in the industry. So the act was passed in 23. There was a lull, and as all of you know, the draft rules are now notified in January, Feb. It will be, the recommendation suggestions, and probably the government, with the way they have come out, I am sure it will, rules will be notified, and probably a time period of 2 years may be given. But therefore, now we could see our interactions with the industry, that now people have taken note of it, that we need to start working. So there are many aspects, because let me focus on this, that's what I thought, so that this is an area which will be of great interest to you. I am sure my colleagues will touch the other aspects of compliance side. So, there are many aspects. I think Mr. Shashank Shekhar covered a lot of things. He is an authority and expert. Many privacy impact assessment, consent management, securing the PII data, the right of, principle to be forgotten. So many things are there. So I'll cover on 2 things as we go forward in the discussion. One is about securing the PII data. What are the challenges? And this challenge is not only for India, it's a global challenge which people are trying to solve. And secondly, the interesting aspect about when a principal asks his data to be, removed, what challenges it will have, from a technology perspective and business perspective. I'll come back to that in due course, but I'll be focusing on these two things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I think let's get deeper into the discussions. So probably we'll try to look at that, how the RegTech is trying to help the compliance requirement for the banks, right? How the RegTech in context to the topics. So Vidya ma'am, I think as a CIO, because the compliance requirement continue to increase, how do you look at that RegTechs probably help you to ensure that compliance requirement? And what are the key drivers that you look at it when you're trying to look at the right RegTech partners, right? Or new RegTech solutions?
So I think I would say some of the key things that RegTech is helping us is, first of all, around automation. Okay, I think it's possible to streamline the processes for us, automating some of those manual tasks, around compliance. Reduce errors as well. Okay, I mean that's very important key to avoid any issues that might come up. So I think that's one area I would say where this has been a big help. The other one is of course around enhanced risk management with data, and using data analytics. It's some of these RegTech solutions really allow us to identify patterns, trends, and all of that. And the best is you'll actually get proactive inputs rather than reactive actions, right? So that's something that is one big one, and I think that's the thing. Another one is also, of course, some of, if with AI-powered techniques that are there with some of these engines, it's also possible to do real-time fraud detection, okay? And I think you can minimize losses with that, so I think that's a good one. Of course, we keep talking about the KYC, AML compliance ones as well. So I think that's another area. I would also say that, because these are integrated platforms, you get centralized database and all that, there is good data accuracy, so the regulatory reporting becomes easier for us. A far more accurate data is being given, standardized reporting is possible, all of this is also. And now the outcome has been that, cost savings has been there, okay? Operational costs get reduced with these kind of solutions in place for us, okay? So I think, and we are able to look at resources being deployed for higher end tasks rather than doing those repetitive tasks and all of that. So I think these are typically areas where I see, with this helping. But I think the real drivers for adoption, as I spoke, are the complexities themselves. With so much complexities around, without tech being there, it's really hard. So I think that's the primary purpose I see that as. And, if you have to manually handle all of this, it's not going to be easy. So I think compliance costs will become that much more high if we manually handle. I think so that's the driving factor for all of us. Of course, RegTech solutions, innovative ones, come with the power to even, support increased efficiencies, data security, all of that can be managed. You'll get a competitive advantage, you can get better experience to, give better experience to customers. I think those are all the areas I would say are the drivers for this.
No, thank you, Vidya ma'am. And on a lighter note, also I think, so RegTech solution has a better future in coming time, right? So just coming to now being serious, as we spoke about that increasing compliance complications, right, and the DPDP around the corner you touch upon and protecting the PII data and all these things. How do you say that RegTech solutions are evolving to address those compliance complications, right? And then also, how do you see that RegTech solutions can help? She has already spoken about that probably the technology is the way forward. So how do you see that RegTech solution will help them to make the financial institution to meet their compliance requirements? Yes, sir. Yeah. So you are the RegTech provider here. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I was going by the same sequence.
Okay. No. So probably two parts, right? One is that how do you RegTech are helping the compliance complications challenges?
So thank you. So as I said, I'll speak on two things. First is the securing of the PII data, which is going to be, most relevant in due course. Now, all of us have studies as, in our school days. Every element exists in three states: solid, liquid, and vapor, right? Likewise, data exists in three states: at rest, in transit, and in process / use. So when you talk about securing the data, you need to secure in all the 3 states: at rest, in transit, in use / process. The first 2 problems has been solved globally, primarily driven by encryption technologies. But what about part 3? So all current databases in the entire world today can only process plain text data. Does all of you agree, or anybody has a difference of opinion? Please feel free. Okay, I assume that.
No, at least as a practitioner also that I fully agree with you, right?
Okay,
yes,
right.
Yeah.
So, therefore, whatever securities you would have put, whatever encryptions you have used at rest in motion, for process you have to decrypt. And the moment you are decrypting, that is where the entire vulnerability exists. And that is why we see the breaches are still happening. It is not that people have not secured it earlier. So therefore, lot of research is happening in this space. How do we prevent this particular piece, what I was mentioning? So, the new concept called cryptographic computing is perhaps has the answer. Everybody here knows one of the most popular cryptographic computing techniques. Can anybody name it? Please feel free. All of us, everybody talks about it. So the blockchain. So that's one of the cryptographic computing. So from this, world over, about 4 broad technologies are being attempted. Zero knowledge proof, homomorphic encryption, secure multi-party computation, and differential privacy. So all these 4 broad classes of solutions are trying to solve the problem of using the plain text data, converting them into cryptographic tokens to some form of cryptographic computing, and then processing at the token level, so that there is no need to decrypt the plain text data for processing. So this is what holds the answer for this particular problem, and in due course, I think the homomorphic encryption has evolved fairly well. There are few production installations, and rest of it, lot of research is happening. And from our side, we take pride that Posidex has built one of these world-class capabilities using ZKP plus homomorphic encryption, which we have launched. Some of those interested can go and see. This is the first problem. The second interesting situation that the DPDP Act says is, the principal can say that please don't hold my data, you delete the data. Now that's a right given to him, so therefore let's say you have to delete, there is no option for the organization. Let's say once deleted, he comes again the next day, particularly if it is a risky customer. Now he has done something, and then maybe he has, no, you should be able to quickly identify this guy dealt with me earlier and is a risky guy. So, but that knowledge is totally missing if you have deleted the record previously. So our proposition to this is, you record everything, you delete everything as requested, but retain irreversible token of that person. If you retain that, the DPDP Act allows that. Even if some of you who are aware of the GDPR Act, the encrypted data, irreversible, is allowed to be transferred freely because it cannot be read. So if you have retained the token of the person, if that person ever tries to come to you again, instantly you will say, this guy dealt with us earlier. So, this is the second problem, which I thought I wanted to, there are many areas in the DPD, but from a core technology perspective, one is, what is it, the new technology that is required to secure while in computation? And secondly, what I said is, how do we retain the data even though we delete the data? So these are the 2 things I wanted to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. I think this was a good tech insights into that, how the technology solutions is going to be evolving to address these are the emerging compliance complications and requirements. So Jignesh, I will come to you. You have heard about the solutions, right? So I just want to understand from driving the digital agenda, what are the typical challenges that you foresee into implementation of RegTech solution and plugging into your journeys, right? And I don't want to only limit to the technology challenges, but also the cultural, the people challenges, and the technology challenges that I want to touch upon.
Yeah. So I would break this into two parts. Part one is Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, see, part one is, according to me, the RegTech is going to help businesses grow efficiently, right? I don't think it's the other way around. RegTech is going to help business grow efficiently, like Vidya also mentioned. Now, imagine doing KYC of people manually. Imagine doing bank statement analysis manually, and so many things which are there in digital journeys. Imagine doing those manually and ensuring compliance without tech. It's impossible, right? There's no way it can be done without tech, right? I'm just trying to be really blunt and open. It's impossible, right? And tech is actually helping us reduce the risk, right? If you ask my personal view, tech is not a challenge, it's helping us reduce the risk. Today, I can do so much data triangulation using solutions, let's say the Posidex gives or other people give. While it's compliance requirement, but I would say it's helping businesses reduce their risk. And I can only do it with the help of RegTech requirement or technology solution in place. So that's the positive side of it, that it's going to definitely help, and it's helping all of us grow our businesses more efficiently with less credit risk. Now comes the other side, that okay, we have all these solutions, are we in compliance, are our partner in compliance? So that's where, we have a very delicate balance, that in terms of...
Yes, they're working.
Yeah, in terms of customer journey, I want it very smooth, right? But the compliance requirements keeps coming, that okay, now we have to check this, now we have to take this consent. So that's the fine balance which we have to always keep, right? That while I don't want to disturb the customer journey, at the same time, how can I address the risk and the compliance compliance to it? To do that, most of us use third-party solutions, right? And without third-party solutions, I think banks and NBFCs alone cannot build good technology, digital journeys, right? So then step two, you go to third parties to get a solution. That's when the regulatory compliance again kicks in, that now are the third-party solutions also compliant, right? So first, compliance tells you to do 1, 2, 3, 4 things. You fit it into your digital journey. To get it done, you go to third-party solutions. Then your digital journey looks fine, right? And from a customer standpoint, I'm saying it looks fine. And then second, you address that, okay, are your partners compliant? So that's how the whole cycle has to be put in place, that, okay, this compliance, what is the solution? After the solution, whether that solution is compliant. So it's that is an evolving thing, right?
Absolutely right.
But it's changing really fast, right? Now DPDP has come, right? And before that, there were other regulations. Of course, there is RBI compliance. So, and sometimes the regulations are not in sync also. So which one do we follow, right? That also happens, that which one do we follow? Having said that, over a long term, I would say that this is all falling in place quite fast, right? Last 15 years to now, things are falling in place quite fast, and now we cannot imagine doing things without technology, right? It's impossible to do it now. I mean, the scale which we build through technology, whether customer coming to us or we going to the customer, both sides, the scale cannot be built without technology. And RegTech is also helping us do that, if you ask me. It's not something which is holding us back. Yes, there is challenge in terms of compliance, interpretation, and sometimes the open risk which we have. But overall, I would say RegTech is going to definitely help us long term to the participants, whether it's a fintech participant or a RE. It's going to finally help all of us. Yes, initial teething challenges will be there, but overall, I think it's going to help all the parties involved, including the customer, I would say.
Thank you, Jignesh. So, Vidya ma'am, let's now talk about later in the future. You already touched upon that role of the data analytics going to play into the redesigning of some of the RegTech solutions. Mr. Rao spoke about that blockchain-based solutions. So what do you think that role of this emerging new technology, be it analytics or blockchain, will reshape the future of the RegTech and become a part of your compliance strategy for the NBFC?
I think, I mean, data, I know I did hear data may not be the new oil, but yesterday in the session, but I think data is really important. While I know we need to secure PII and all of it, a lot of behavioral data that is generated is actually giving us insights, and that's the way to really predict, manage. Okay, I think that's really becoming critical for us. And how well we mine the data can give us the edge over, competition. That's the, how uniquely and differently you mine data is the, edge that you will get over competition. I think that's the given these days, right? So that's one. Of course, using the power of AI, ML, intelligence can be brought into the overall, insights. Of course, that's another one is there. There can be fraud detection can be made far better. That's going to be the way to go as well. With GenAI, I'm sure, even this quantum of information that is hitting us on compliance, for us to just stay ahead and stay updated, we will need the help of, I think, tech on this. The other one, I think, which is significantly helping us, and I'm sure others, is around biometric information. So we've been using, fingerprint scanning and all of it. Now face recognition is becoming as well important. We are trying to bring that in as well to avoid frauds. That technique also is coming in. Of course, cloud, I know is almost, I can't even call it as an emerging tech now. It's a given tech in there. This helps to avoid the cost that may be there. See, not every institution can implement an independent system. So cloud-based systems are allowing us to start small scale as we grow. So I think that's helping as well. Of course, blockchain is the way ahead. It can help us be transparent, secure, decentralized. All the right words are the way to go. Okay, so I think that's another one. I think all of these technologies are helping us, but of course the important aspect, while I keep talking tech, I also say there is a human angle to it. You will have to somehow foster the culture of compliance within the organization, while tech can, all the tech can come out there. Okay, so I think at least that's my strong takeaway, even as a tech person, is something that I would say.
Thank you. Anything you want anybody want to add?
No, just on the people part, which Vidya mentioned, that very, very critical, that today the whole organization needs to know that using technology, how do we do compliance, right? It's not that only the business team or the tech team or the digital team knows about it, right? Everyone needs to be aligned. So the chief compliance officer, the legal officer, they all need to be aligned to ensure that, okay, this is how we are complying to it. The technology side, the digital side of the companies are well versed with it, right? The compliance and the legal departments of lot of traditional companies like Muthoot Finance, they may not be well versed as much as the tech and the digital side of it. So it becomes internally a mission to ensure that everybody understands the technology and are convinced that, okay, this is how we are complying, right? And that internally becomes sometimes a challenge, saying that, okay, now internally we know that this is the way we are complying, we are doing it, but then the compliance folks, the legal folks, right, convincing them sometimes becomes a challenge that, okay, this is the way forward and this is how it's being compliant, this is how the data is stored, this is how the data is encrypted, and therefore we are compliant. That sometimes becomes a challenge, and that milestone also we all cross, but it takes some time internally to, align everyone and then say that, okay, this is how it's being done. Regulators to that extent are quite, at least our regulator, Reserve Bank of India, They are actually moving very, very fast on,
True.
how we are using tech to adopt.
That's it. Okay, thanks. Thanks. I think this is a pretty interesting insights from the current compliance challenges, complexities to the future, peeping into future. Maybe I'll just open the floor for anyone want to ask the questions to them. Yeah, please, can I have someone have Mark? Vanshika?
Yeah, hi, good morning. So carrying forward to what Vidya ji told, today we know the cloud has definitely increased efficiency, scalability, but it also brings the risk of a data breach. So how the RegTech or the SupTech can address that problem? And my second part would be, regulator is giving too much sandboxes for fintech solution, but there has not been too much on regulatory aspect. So we are not finding out sandbox for regulatory terms. We are finding many things on fintech. These are my two parts. Number one, how the cloud sharing brings the new risk of a data breach. And second part, what regulator can do better to come out with the RegTech solutions.
Okay, I think from a data breach perspective, if you think it is more about how secure these systems are built. And I think if you see, even from a regulatory angle, from the regulator, there are guidelines that are being given in terms of how, if you see, there is a specific cloud adoption policy that will have to be put in place, cloud security policy that will have to be put in place, and there are clear regulations, guidelines around these, which has come from the regulator, right? So I think those will help ensure that, such problems don't come. Of course, it's also important for the respective entities to ensure they are testing this and all those, I saw those, we'll have to have those tests done, VAPTs done, we'll have to ensure SOC 2 compliance for all these, if they are SaaS models, SOC 2 compliance becomes important. There are guidelines and regulations which are in place to address this point, okay? And sandbox environment, and this is ever evolving, and while it may look like these are not for regulatory requirements, in fact, I am seeing the line kind of diminishing between a regulatory requirement in at least specific areas like IC and all of it, right? The line diminishing between purely a compliance kind of a requirement to a basic requirement of how you actually handle your process and grow. So I think from that angle you will see better sandbox coming out, to be able to manage this. At least that's my view in terms of how I see this.
Okay. Thank you.
I think thanks, thanks everyone. I think so it's pretty interesting insights from the users as well as the solution providers. So thank you everyone. Thank you panelists. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Well, let's give a big round of applause to all our speakers. Thank you so very much for sharing those insights with us. May I now please request Mr. Shashank Shekhar to felicitate all our speakers. So may I please request you to stay back for a minute. I would request Mr. Shashank to felicitate all our speakers with a memento, a token of appreciation. Would like to thank Ms. Vidya Sambasivam, Chief Information Officer, Dvara, KGFS. Let's put our hands together for her as well. Thanking Mr. Jignesh Vora, Chief Digital Officer, Muthoot Finance. Thank you. Thank you for your insights, for your contribution to this panel. And I would now urge you all to please come together for a group picture. We'd love to get you all clicked together. Some fantastic discussions on how institutions can really balance the need for speed and accuracy, both in detecting financial crimes with the seamless integration of artificial intelligence into compliance processes. A louder round of applause for them one more time. Thank you. Thank you so much.